everybody, Craig Warrack here with the third episode of my vlog. So as if you've been watching the previous ones, I never know what the focus is going to be because life happens, but I think the focus of this one is going to be me making this diorama and perhaps a custom action figure to go with it. My idea was to make a throne room for Doctor Doom. So insulation foam was from my research and from speaking to people is the go-to material. So I bought a big sheet of the stuff at my local home store, and I found this stuff. This must be the maker, Celotex. It comes with a silver, I don't know, sort of sheet on the outside that you can peel away. But you know, when I looked online at the sort of Diostructure group and I looked on YouTube, it's hard because the people there are in America and obviously they have different products. Their foam seems to be pink or blue, and while that kind of thing wouldn't really bother me, you know, I've got a yellow one. I'm like, oh my god, yellow? Does that make a difference? So I just went onto eBay and I did a search for model insulation foam or something, and I found a seller in the UK who was selling sheets like this, and it's blue, or is it green? Who knows? So yeah, I just wanted to get a sheet of this to compare, and it's, you know, it's probably a better thickness for, you know, sort of walls and stuff, but this is probably going to be much better for carving and other things. So yes, this one, when I first got it, the foam seemed much tighter and harder. So I was like, oh god, I've bought this huge amount of nothing. But it seems that from doing the research, the outer layer of this that comes with, like, this, it has the printing on it. Hold on. Tetris. Well, the outer edge that has the printing on it, and it seems it's the same material here, seems to be, I don't know, perhaps has some sort of finish on it that the factory put on, and it's apparently not very good for sculpting. It really does resist your efforts to carve into it. It is possible, but yeah, whereas, you know, this edge, where I've cut it and exposed the sort of inside, is much easier to carve into. So I don't know how to remove that outer edge. I'll have to do some more research. And that's why this one is actually really good, because to remove the outer edge, you just peel away like that. There you go. And it's much easier. So that's what I've learned about foam insulation so far. You can play Tetris with it. I think I might just do that. I'll make a huge Tetris thing and I'll just stand at the top of the stairs and I'll just drop pieces down to people. Line piece! T-shape! Squiggly! What else have I got to say? And what I've also been doing is doing a lot of research on Latveria and Doctor Doom himself. I've got all my Doctor Doom sort of, well, things that I thought Latveria appeared in. I've got Authoritative Action, Fantastic Four story, this Greatest Villains of the Fantastic Four collection. I can't remember why. Oh yes, there's a good story in this. It's called Interlude, where it's just a day in the life of Doctor Doom, what he gets up to. You get to see Latveria. The villainy of Doctor Doom. This has lots of Doctor Doom stories, and it has the great This Land Is Mine story of Doctor Doom, where he retakes Latveria. I've got the Books of Doom, which is, you know, a very recent story about his origins. You know, here's the sort of, you know, this is why I was looking at the stained glass windows. Sorry, the light's shining off it. You know, that his throne room there, when he retakes it from the previous guy, from the rightful ruler of Latveria, I guess. He actually burns, you know, this is the old castle, a very sort of Germanic castle. He burns it down. He sets up his castle in another location. So I'm thinking, do I want to bring in that aspect of Doom having, you know, how can I explain it? Sort of Doom has ruined something and built his throne room on the ruins of what's gone before. You know, that's something that I think is quite, as a king, you would perhaps, as a king that rules by terror, you would perhaps want to preserve that there was something before him that he destroyed, and he sits on the rubble of what has gone before as the king. It's just a sort of little neat thing that I think might work, make Doctor Doom's throne room a bit unique. I've also been looking at Avengers: The Children's Crusade, one of my all-time favourite stories. It has a lot of action in Latveria. There's not much throne room action though. But yeah, beautiful art. And another recent story, The Doom War. This has a lot of good Doctor Doom stuff. He doesn't have any sort of throne room action in it. There is one point where he reveals he's travelled infinite numbers of future realities in his time machine, and the only one that ever worked was the one where he ruled the human race. There is the picture of the future reality where he's sitting on a throne with his Doombots behind him. It's I do like the art, but I can't say I care for the design at all. When they changed Doctor Doom's armour at all, it just doesn't really work. I think especially in this story he gets a suit of vibranium armour and it just looks fucking shit. He's got these massive big spiky shoulder pads and a reactor light in his chest. Just bleh. Why does he need big spikes on it? I don't quite get it. Is it to stop pigeons? Right, so that's where we're at. I've had a look at all the source material, I think, and the reason I put all the thought into it beforehand and spend a long time in this stage is because I like to be confident that I've thought it through, that I've got all the reference stuff together in my head and mixed it up and come out with something that makes sense for me. I don't want to get to the stage where I'm building it and then I go, oh yeah, I remember that thing that Doctor Doom did that time. Wouldn't it be cool if I I can't work that in now, it's too late. Oh well, maybe no one will notice. I'll notice these things. Probably some other people will too. So I've just been doing some preliminary sort of sketches, there's just sort of, I've been thinking, well, that's what a door would look like, that's what a window would look like. And I think that came directly from the Books of Doom. There's an image of a Latvian window, and it's like, obviously the window's not going to be right over the door, and that wouldn't make much sense, especially on a spiral staircase. But, I'm not really designing the room, I'm just making notes of features it may have. I've got a pillar here. This was before I went and looked at the pillars in the cathedral, so I have a very rounded shape here, but you saw the pillars in the cathedral, they had the straight lines, they were octagonal or something, and I thought, well, is there going to be a light that comes out it? Would it be a torch? And then I thought, how would the torch be held? Would it have a tentacle coming up, black magic, that kind of thing? These are my very early sort of ideas. I've got stained glass written down here, Statue of Doom, gargoyles, and that's his flag as appeared in the Books of Doom, so that probably will come in very useful later. You see here, this is sort of my design for his throne, and then I know you're seeing a huge face there. That's not, obviously the guy who's sitting on it doesn't have that huge a head. That was something on the wall behind him. I was thinking, what kind of crest would Doctor Doom have? Would he have a shield with the sort of different animals on it? And then I was like, no, the guy's going to have a huge image of himself for his crest. I mean, that's just so Doctor Doom. And then I was thinking, he's got basically the throne, much as you see in the Marvel Select Doctor Doom, but then I thought, let's move it forward. That's the sort of frame I started with. And then when I saw, I saw the heraldic, how do you do it? Whatever. Animals on that cross at St. Giles Cathedral. I looked at them because I came up with these ideas for some sort of statues at either side of him, and I've got the lion and the unicorn, which are, I think they're maybe British ones, so I'll have to look at other creatures that are. We saw the stags at that cathedral, and then I thought I would have them they're not there as proud beasts. I've got the idea of them sort of rearing in perhaps horror or something as the tentacles of, you know, essentially doom come and entangle them. And then the general layout of the throne room, you know, I was thinking that Doom would be up against the wall, throne, bam, there we go, that's it, throne room. But, you know, I kind of wanted to have more depth and levels to it than that. So I thought to sort of, how do they do throne rooms on stage? And I thought of King Lear. I actually remembered Patrick Stewart talking about how his transition from Shakespearean theatre to Star Trek The Next Generation was quite simple, because the set where he performs, the main bridge of the Enterprise in Star Trek The Next Generation, was very similar to a Shakespearean set. He had the throne, and then they had the area at the front. I don't know the theatrical terms for these areas. The promenade, perhaps, I don't know, comes forward, and then in Star Trek The Next Generation there's the chair here, and there's a big ramp that goes up around the back, and some players stand up there. You've got Commander Worf and other people at the science station. So I thought that's quite a cool setup for Doctor Doom's sort of throne room. So I kind of went to something like this. The throne in the sort of the middle with some sort of fresco behind him. He'd probably have those animals, like I said before, and perhaps some sort of raised area going up behind him. So that's kind of what I'm going for. I started working on that some more. I brought in, you know, I worked it down from something very nice to being a kind of a rubble. You know, I've gone back to that feeling of rubble, but it's going to have to be neater than that. And then I took a break. I did a quick sketch of Doom's face here, and then finally I sort of started bringing it all together. And this is in my head at the moment what I'm kind of going for, viewed from the front. We've got the throne in the middle with the animals either side, and the sort of rubble raised sort of platform going up behind him with stained glass windows overlooking him. And there's the sort of going up to the roof up there, and there's the pillar like I saw in the cathedral, and also a destroyed pillar here, but not simply destroyed, but it's revealed that inside there's a lot of technology within it. And I sort of, you know, I very quickly said, you know, just gave myself the hint as to what I was thinking at the time, that there's cables coming out of it reaching to the roof, because that's something I would like to bring in as well. That, you know, Castle Latveria, Craig, that's wrong, you know it's called Castle Doom. Castle Doom it looks like Edinburgh Castle, it looks like this medieval stone thing, but it's actually this technological marvel. So I want to bring that in. Do I want to have stones chipped away and technology behind it? So much going on, so many things I want to try and fit into this. But like I say, at least I've thought about all of these things and can bring them into the design. If I just jumped straight in and started working on it, all these ideas that I hadn't thought of would never come into it. Oh, hello. You've just caught me doing my research on YouTube. Bob the Odd. Bob the Odd. Taking notes.
I just dump big piles of it all. That's why I always have a big cup full of it.
He's dumping big piles.
That's on here. And if you're worried about the sticking, just go ahead and give it a quick dab, push at it, and then, like I said, just dump it. That is the next step. Now, once this is all dried,
so you've seen this design, the one that I'm going to mostly be working towards, and this is what I've been doing, is trying to translate that into actual sort of 3D space in very basic terms. I've got my base down here, and the columns, which I've obviously been wiping my arse on. That's what happens to Castle Doom. So you see there, try to translate that. Iron Man sitting in for the dock. Just rigged up some wooden blocks to try and raise the height. I think in general I'm going to have to raise the throne a little. Make it just higher than the floor, I think. A couple, maybe a step or two going down. And then I've just used some little boxes here to give me an idea of how tall this needs to be. Because actually when you end up adding all the heights and widths together, it quickly grows. And while with my previous dioramas, I've always tried to make them able to fit into one of the cubes of a Detolf. I don't think that's going to be possible with this one. But if I keep it quite modular, allow it to be taken apart, then hopefully I can represent some of it in there once I get finished with it. Okay, so if you watched the end of my previous vlog, you'll know that I have to find a new place to live. The landlady of our current place wants to sell, so we've been out looking, and yes, we've found a new place, so that's great. We'll be moving soon. However, soon after that news, we got really bad news about my husband's stepfather. That's my stepfather-in-law, passed away, and quite suddenly. So we have to go over to Virginia, where his stepfather and his mother lived, and we're going to just be with the family over there. So yeah, we're going to America. Not under the best terms, but yeah, it's an unexpected change of location for a short period anyway. So we've got to pack this place up, go over to America for a couple of weeks, help his mother move stuff over there, come back here, move our stuff to our new place, unpack, and get going. So February's going to be quite a month. So that's where we're at the moment. So yeah, I don't think there's going to be any movement on dioramas or customs. So how do you follow up news like that in a vlog and try and keep it positive? Well, let's look at some of the questions that were asked. Automatica has a little question for us, much appreciated. I'm sure I'll spin it into a 45-minute load of bullshit. I have a little question. Not sure if you've ever talked about it or not. Are you a fan of any DC characters or stories at all? Interesting question. As you will probably know, I'm a Marvel guy, but I do like DC and have an interest in DC. I try to keep up on the very general situations with their characters, which I found difficult to do when they did this New 52 thing, because they were supposed to be sort of rebooting their characters. But for me, that presented a wall, because they didn't really present a digest of what the characters are. They just kind of went forward, said, you don't need to worry about what's gone before. But for me, continuity is pretty much everything. It's the whole point of doing the serial drama. So constant reboots, rewrites, alterations to reality really turn me off. So DC has had a few of those, which always present for me as a sort of comic fan, rather than a jumping on point, it's always a jumping off point. I'm really a big fan of DC's animated work, particularly their cartoons rather than their feature-length animations. I find that the feature-length animations tend to have the plot of a cartoon strung out with really long fights, which I'm not that bothered about. So yes, that's my connection to DC. So thanks for that, Automatica. Okay, everything's moving really quickly. 5 days, moving out of here, moving into the new place. 2 days after that, flying over to the States, to Virginia, there for a few days, flying to Indiana for a funeral, then a few days later flying back to Virginia, and be there in Virginia for a few days, and then flying back here to our new place. So next time you see me sitting talking about load of crap in front of my customs, will probably be in a new place a couple of weeks time. Hopefully when I'm in the States I can pick up some Marvel Legends and stuff, but I guess it's bye bye to this old place. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning or something. It's not that early, but I feel like it's really early. This is the day we're heading over to the States, so gotta get moving. Before I do, I've been to Toys R Us, that's here in the UK in Edinburgh, and they had Spider-Man Infinite Legends for £16.99. So I picked up all of those guys. It's the first load, so it's like Carnage and the Black Cat and the Beetle. So that's one of the things down that I'll have to look for in the States. But I guess I better get moving. So this is me here in very, very cold and snowy Salem, Virginia. I arrived here just over a week ago, is that right? And then I flew to South Bend, Indiana for the funeral, which is the reason I'm over here. And come back, and while I brought my camera with me in the hope that I would be able to make some vlogs while I'm over here, but with the reason I'm being over here not being too cheery, it's not really been the right time to do that. So with the funeral over a week ago, yeah, I guess I can get back into it. Unfortunately, the weather here is just taking a turn for the worse, so I doubt I'm going to be able to do any vlogs of me going around toy stores. That's not to say I haven't been around toy stores. I went around to toy stores here in Virginia, and that's Toys R Us, Target, and I don't know what else, Walmart. And I picked up some things that they had. I did my service for the nation by picking up those World War II Captain America figures off the pegs. Well, hair in my mouth. Weird. Yeah, by picking up that World War II Captain America figure, just the one of them. Those things are all over the pegs here, no one's wanting them. I picked up all of the Captain America Legends wave, apart from the Red Skull, who I haven't seen yet, but I have ordered him off eBay to deliver here, loose, so that would be great. I got 2 AIM soldiers, so I'm pretty delighted with that, to be honest. They were the figure I was really after in the wave. I'm starting to shiver here, it's getting a bit cold. As for the Spider-Man Legends figures, I've not really seen many of them. I've seen a couple of Superior Spider-Man and the movie Spider-Man figure, but not many of the others. I did see a Beetle once. I've picked up one of each that I've seen. They are available, as you saw, in my own country now, but they're just cheaper here. Getting condensation on my top lip. Either that is just snotters falling out my nose. So yeah, without anything of any worth to show you at the moment, I guess I can answer a question or two. Orion Bell asked me what is my role at the university. Am I a professor or something else? I'm the Professor of Awesome Studies. No, that's an awful joke. Will I edit that? No, I'll keep it in. I'm actually the Management Information Officer. That means that I provide statistical data in line with the government's requirements for the university, so that all universities can be compared on equal terms. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. The mediocrity rules, still asking about his Emma Frost. It's not happening. What can you do? Also, I was told there would be shirtlessness in this video. You know, I was going to go shirtless just for this segment, but you know, the weather just went bad. It's been this way for 24 hours. I'm sorry, you know, maybe next time. Ghost Delta Medic asked me would I ever make a Dalek, a custom Dalek. I have thought about it, but I don't think I'm going to bother. I'm going to go off on one here. Part of it was, on the run up to the Day of the Doctor, I was so into Doctor Who. Again, there was a huge sort of excitement and enthusiasm for the whole thing, and the Day of the Doctor was great, and it had this little, you know, it had bad moments about it, but I loved it, and there was just such an excitement around Doctor Who. And then they did the Christmas special, and it was
fucking dreadful. Honest to God, just abysmal. So I've lost interest there. I can't wait for Peter Capaldi to take over, because I really like I like the actor. I like him as Malcolm Tucker in the thick of it. So I'm hoping I'll get back into it. But so yeah, at the moment not a custom Dalek. What else have we got? Are there any customizers I look up to or are inspired by? Asks The Darkness GTR1. It's an interesting question. There are a lot. Obviously I'm good friends with Glenn Webb, and I really appreciate his view on the I don't want to say the, how can I say it, like the small corners of the Marvel universe, the weird guys, the the monsters. I think that's an approach I love. Making customs of really popular characters, I don't really see the point. They've got a lot of figures. Maybe the figures aren't as good as they should be or stuff like that, but I think it always shows when a customizer is interested in the character, and that translates so well into the customs. And I can see that in Glenn's. When he sees the character design, he thinks, that's cool, that's neat. He probably doesn't say neat, but yeah, I just like that approach. I think it comes across well in his work. I'm trying to think of other ones off the top of my head. Obviously there's Loose Collector, but that's more the quality of the work, the sort of finish of it. He has a very particular paint job that looks incredibly professional. So yeah, that's an inspiration. Also, there are customizers who, like Jean Saltome, who are good at using the fodder parts of other figures in ways that I wouldn't think of. I'm not really a fodder guy. I don't see figures first and then think, oh, I can use that and that, and I can use that and that. I tend to think of who I want to make and then figure out what figures I can use to make that. Not I see what figures there are and who can be made from them. So I appreciate Jin's sort of expertise at seeing the available materials first and identifying what can be made from it. There are other guys like Brett Bremen, Heroes Assembled Customs perhaps. His sculpting work is phenomenal. He did a Fing Fang Foom and a Cthulhu figure, and just the detail that he put into those is amazing. Whiskey Tangos and Spawn Sauce, as I said before, their use of sort of material on customs has really inspired me to try and do similar things myself. You saw me do that with my Unthinkable Doctor Doom. There's probably a lot more, but as the temperature drops, I'm fucking freezing my nuts off here, so I'll cut it short. Marvel Universe Lover, the guy who made me tidy my room, has asked, X-Men, Avengers or Fantastic Four, which one do you tend to like better as reading, customizing and just in general? They all have their strong points. The Fantastic Four are not so entertaining for customs. They're very much just people in suits, and their suits are not too exciting. Saying that, for some reason they fail to have good action figures. You'd think, that just doing a paint job on a body would be a good thing for a toy company to do, but they don't seem to be getting it. I love the Fantastic Four. I would say they're probably my favourite team, just because of how different they are from superhero teams, which is strange because they're considered the first family. They tend to go looking for adventure. They're, as Mark Waid called them, Imaginauts. They go all over the place and they have a family dynamic that's cute, and there's a lot of wacky ideas, and obviously there's Doctor Doom, who's my favourite character. Silver Surfer is another one. They tend to turn up. The X-Men, I love the idea of the X-Men, but I think they can be done very wrongly at times. When they get trapped up in the sort of the Shi'ar and sort of that sort of stuff, I feel their strength is, and this is probably me speaking from my personal standpoint as a gay guy, that their strength comes from them being the outcasts in society, fighting for a world that hates and fears them. I think that's really strong, and that sometimes doesn't come across too well. The Avengers, I've loved the Avengers up until very recent years, when they have become, they're like bullies, you know. I mean, I haven't read an Avengers comic in a long time, so this is just my sort of outlook on them. But they seem like they're a sort of army of bullies who want to fold everyone into their point of view. I just don't see that you can fold all the heroes of the Marvel Universe into this sort of group and have them all fight together. They're supposed to have very different viewpoints. How can Doctor Strange be an Avenger? I don't get it. The guy has honestly better things to be doing with his time. Even when they sort of tried to call the Guardians of the Galaxy like they're the Avengers in space, they're not. I mean, the Guardians of the Galaxy are way above the Avengers. I'm sorry, the sort of stuff they deal with. I mean, the Avengers were fighting ninjas for a while. Give me a fucking break, ninjas. And on the subject of ninjas, Mace or Mace or Mace 43 has said he would love to hear more of my personal connection with Japan someday. Well, why not now then, seeing as I've got nothing better to do. I studied Japanese at university. I have a degree of Bachelor of Arts with honours in Japanese Studies. And that really stemmed from, to be honest, Street Fighter 2. When I was in high school, secondary school as we call it, I loved Street Fighter 2 so much. It was on the Super Nintendo back when it came out in the early 90s, and that really sort of attracted me to Japan, hearing those Japanese words when they do their moves, and it was just amazing. And at the same time, sort of manga and anime started its sort of big push on the West. So I was taken up by that, and I went on to study it in university, as you know, and I went to Japan as part of my third year in university, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I don't know what it was, but when I came back to the UK from studying abroad, I didn't want to study Japanese anymore. But luckily I didn't make such a heavy-handed decision as to drop out of university at that point. I just decided to defer a year and go and get a job. A year on from that point, I sort of sat back and said, okay Craig, you can go back to university, or you can continue working. And I could have lived perfectly happily with the kind of jobs I was getting at the time, but I wanted, after having gone to Japan and then coming back and feeling that sort of small world again, I wanted to broaden the horizons again. So I went back to university, finished my degree, actually really loved it, and I came out in that final year of university actually. So that was probably part of it. Part of why I didn't enjoy Japan. I was over there, I wasn't happy, I was in the closet, it was, all these things are just very stressful on your mind. Came back to university, finished my degree. It was just, a huge weight, and I went to Japan to teach English straight after that. I lived in Osaka. Osaka is what is considered to be the sort of people's capital of Japan. It is the place where food and sort of music and laughter and comedy, these things all really thrive in Osaka. So it was a wonderful place to be. And I lived there for 3 years initially, and at the end of the third year I met the guy who ended up being my husband. He was also there. He had gone from Indiana over there. So obviously I owe a lot to Japan. I owe a lot of my happiness to Japan in that whole situation. Japan was at times a very difficult place to live in. It's hard to live on the receiving end of, I wouldn't say it was sort of really strong racism, but there is a racism there. there is a feeling amongst Japanese people that they call Nihonjin Ron, which is the sort of the sense of being a Japanese person, that we apparently we Western people, or people from outside of Japan, doesn't have to be Western people, are unable to understand, apparently, which, you know, fair enough, I guess. And that was kind of hard to take on board at times, that despite me studying the country and living there for a while, I was never going to really be a part of it. And also I didn't really fancy the guys. You know, having studied the country, it gives you a very critical eye on it. You do stand as a sort of critical observer. You know, you look at the school system, you see this is flawed, this would work better this way, my country is better this way, my country is worse in this way. You know, with this very critical sort of look on it, I found that after living there, it really did get me down. I found it harder to find things that I enjoyed. But like I say, luckily I met my husband there. We lived there together for 2 years. So that made it 5 years in total, and towards the end of our time there, we got married at the UK Embassy in Tokyo. Obviously gay marriage isn't legal, obviously. At the moment, gay marriage isn't legal in Japan. But because we were on UK soil, we could get married, and then my husband could get a visa to come and live in the UK. When I moved to Japan to teach English, I lived in Osaka. And I loved it, absolutely loved it. I was straight out of university, you know, I was crazy with confidence. I saw a whole new country, you know, you could be whoever you wanted to be. You could, you know, not make the mistakes that you made in your previous, or perceived mistakes that you made in your previous sort of life back home. It was just amazing. So anyway, that's kind of just off the top of my head, that's my connection to Japan. Like I said, it is absolutely freezing here, and in usual style I've crapped on longer than I had planned to. Thanks for all those questions. If I've left anyone out, please do let me know, and I'll get back to you in the next video. I think I'll try and wrap this one up before I head home, but as soon as I head home, I'm going to try and get this uploaded. So, ta-ra! Freezing!